Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Zander and Jess Valentine.
Hey Nat, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Squad, I had Nat come to help me to talk about our new sponsor, Brainwashed Coffee. The mission of Brainwashed Coffee is to offer support to those struggling with addiction and inspire others to join the fight.
Sounds awesome.
They donate 50% of all the proceeds to addiction recovery. On their site, they're also extending a discount to the Seltzer Squad listeners of 20%. I am trying out the Guatemala Ethiopia blend and the Colombian decaf because I'm a half calf type of girl, and I can't wait to use my Brainwashed Coffee to start making lattes. So order yourself some Brainwashed Coffee. It's brainwashedcoffeeco.com. Use code Seltzer Squad for 20% off at checkout. Hey Squad, I wanted to tell you about one of our sponsors for 2021, and that's BetterHelp.com. We get asked all the time by the Seltzer Squad for recommendations to therapists and mental health resources. BetterHelp is affordable, private online counseling anytime, anywhere. Through signing up with our link, you can take their short quiz and get matched with a therapist right away. Once they pair you with a licensed therapist in your state, they'll go over your income needs. So it's billed monthly, and it's based on your location, your preferences, and your therapist's availability. So you can cancel your membership at any time for any reason, but you get basically unlimited access to a therapist. You can have a live chat session, but you can also do like a text session where you walk away in between. You can do phone sessions, you can do video sessions. It's really kind of just depends on your level of comfort. So BetterHelp has a team of trained and fully licensed therapists that are in good standing. You can rest assured that you're getting a full credentialed professional. I actually used online therapy this summer when Nance was on maternity leave. I signed up for BetterHelp. Through signing up with the Seltzer Squad, our listeners get 10% off by going to betterhelp.com/Seltzer Squad. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Kate.
We're welcoming Dr. Courtney Tracy, therapist.
I like to call you Dr. TikTok.
Yes. Like amazing. I found her on TikTok, everybody.
I don't have TikTok, so.
She does so many amazing things. She has a podcast. She has a recovery center. She has an amazing Instagram that's super helpful. And she has a really entertaining and insightful TikTok. And that is how I found you. And she has the best bangs. So I don't know if when you guys go to her page, she has amazing bangs also. So welcome.
Yeah, Kate told me before. She's like, she's got the best bangs. Then you came on like, she does have the best bangs.
I've been cutting them myself for 8 months. So
good for you. They look great.
Do it
crazy.
Did I miss anything?
Because of the pandemic, but it's like when I do bangs, I am the only person that can get them the way I want them when I want like that like big full Zooey Deschanel type full bang. So you're doing a good job.
Did I miss anything in your intro? You do a lot. You do a lot of things. Every guest that we have does a lot of things, and I usually botch the intro.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think that you covered it. I mean, treatment center, podcast, social media. That's about it. I think mom, wife.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. So,
oh my God,
guys, she's also sober. So I want to get into that because I know that your story is a little bit unique and untraditional, and that's sort of a lot of our squad and Jess and I as well. So I would love to dig into kind of your journey and into addiction and recovery.
Yeah, I would love to. I don't talk about it too often. I mean, sometimes I make videos here and there. I think that the reason why I don't talk about it too often is because it's very different. You know, having a background in addiction, having an addiction treatment center, some of the things that I kind of have to say about my own journey and what I'm open to other people's journeys looking like can be kind of deterring for a few people who believe in just full, complete abstinence. And I do believe in that for certain people. And that's hasn't been the case for me. So I'm totally down to talk about it.
You are private about it, like sometimes, because I was like, I told Jess, I was like, she's amazing. She's sober. And then today when I was looking through all of your stuff, I was like, it doesn't say sober anywhere. Maybe, did I make that up? And I was like, Jess, maybe I made it up, but I'm pretty sure she's sober.
Yeah.
Well, also like the word sober can kind of mean different things to different people. And especially since you have a recovery center, you probably like never want to like rock the boat and offend certain people. So, I mean, I totally get it. At least on a smaller scale with the podcast, people will be like, how can you call yourself sober if you smoke weed or have CBD or whatever? So I get you being careful with that.
Yeah, I mean, people are just, there's so many opinions about it, and so many people's lives have been put on the line because of their use. And so it's like it's a safety thing. And then it's the perception of who takes the message and what do they take from that message, and is that going to be harmful to them or not? And so it's just tricky, but I'm opening up more about it slowly. And so I'm glad to be on here talking about it today.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
So walk us through like your story, your addiction story.
Well, I did the typical being 13 years old and drinking out of my grandfather's bar, filling up the vodka bottles with water so that he didn't notice, like dusting off all the dust so he couldn't tell that the bottles were removed or like had more space in between them. And so that typical thing when I was 13. And then, so I've been married to my husband for 15 years. I met him when I was 14 years old, and he was like doing everything that I had never even heard of before. And so we started dating as soon as I turned 15. And within the first 3 weeks, I was introduced to cocaine and methamphetamine and ecstasy and pills and alcohol and marijuana. And I started smoking marijuana a little bit before I met him with just, I was in the stoner group my freshman year of high school. And I was really, even when I was just stealing alcohol from my grandfather's bar and going to go hang out with the older kids, I was really looking for a way to connect with the people around me and to find a community of people in essence that were escaping, because that's kind of what we're doing most of the time. Maybe we can be experimenting a little when we're teenagers, but if you continue doing it, then it's giving you something. It can give you connection. It can give you numbness. It can allow you to control your own pain in some way if there's pain that you can't control in your life. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And then when I was 15, I had this thing where I really wanted to have an identity when I was younger. And I thought, okay, so I'm not the cheerleader and I'm not the popular girl and I'm not the smart girl. I'm going to be the girl that goes to rehab over winter break. So I was not addicted. I'm pretty sure I wasn't addicted at 15. Because I didn't have physical cravings for it. It was a social situation, even though it was daily. And I had this huge bag of methamphetamine that I would stay up all night doing in my room. I still don't think I was physically addicted or psychologically addicted. I think I was addicted to the draw of the people around me. But I was like, I'm going to go to rehab. And so I was like, Mom, I think I'm like addicted and I need to go to rehab. And then I went to rehab for 2 weeks over winter break and made this huge deal about it to everybody. And then I never did meth again. So it's like, and I barely paid attention when I was in there. I went to like 2 AA meetings and that was it. So I'm pretty sure that I was not addicted as I was with some things later on in my life. Now, my dad wasn't in my life. My dad did a lot of drugs and alcohol when I was growing up. And that's all I kind of really knew about him. He was so wonderful whenever I would see him. And so I never really understood the disconnect. I was like, why don't you want my dad around? Like, I don't get it. And that was like a huge trauma for me. It's like every time he would leave, I would bawl my fucking eyes out. And then I got older and I was like, oh, well, he does do drugs and I'm doing drugs. And I kind of felt like him a little bit. I'm crazy. My mom has a lot of emotion. So I was emotional and doing drugs. And I was like, this is me. This is who I'm supposed to be. So that was kind of how it started. And then I got out of rehab at 15, miraculously cured from my meth addiction. And then I started using again because I came out and I was the same person in the same environment with the same boyfriend. And then, I never got into opiates. I got huge into the rave scene, would get these like massive limos, put all my friends in it, get a bunch of ecstasy and go partying it together as one, and Monster Massive in LA and all this shit at like 15, 16, 17. Then I went to college. And college was, psychedelics, binge drinking, selling cocaine. I sold cocaine in high school and ecstasy in high school, sold cocaine and ecstasy in college while getting my degree in psychology. And I didn't know I wanted to go into the addiction field. I really didn't know until someone that was in my husband's fraternity ended up committing suicide, and we didn't know that he was suffering because we were just binge drinking and doing a bunch of drugs. And so I realized that substances were getting in the way of really connecting with human beings, which is the reason why I was doing it in the first place. And I realized that I wasn't connecting. And then at the same time, everyone who didn't end up going away to college in my hometown became addicted to opiates, and we lost 7 people in a period of 6 months that were all in my graduating class. And then we lost someone to drunk driving in the same group of people. And so substances, I started realizing, were altering my life. They were making me do really fucked up things. I probably broke up with my husband like every 6 months and got with a different person and then binge drank. And it was just really chaotic for a really long time. And when I got into my early 20s, probably 23, I realized I think I want to start to address why human beings use substances in the first place with my own story and the stories of everyone that I've known that's lost their life. You know? And so that's what I started doing. So that was my journey, my prior journey. And then I'm sure we'll get into kind of where I'm at today and how it relates to everything.
So at that point, you're 23, you're out of school, still in school? You're in grad school?
Yeah. Well, after one of my ex-boyfriends died, I quit college and I moved back home and I binge drank for 6 months. And then I went back up to school and I got rejected from all the universities that I was prior accepted to because of my grades and from failing out. And so I was 22, I went back into college. So I was still getting my bachelor's degree when I should have been graduated with it. And it was that point forward. So I was still getting my bachelor's, about a year left. And then I was going to start my master's. And in between there is when I started working at my first rehab.
Did you have any inklings along the way of like consequences like that you suffered personally that you just normalized? I think like I have a similar story of the binge drinking. Like I would black out, but it was normalized because we were all blacking out. But I seem to still suffer harder consequences because I was drinking harder. At least they're harder to me.
Definitely. I mean, I think I still have memory issues from blacking out 4 or 5 nights a week. And I never had legal issues, but I was pretty fucking swift. So like even in college, when me and my boyfriend, now husband, were like snorting blue ecstasy, they would talk to him first and see blue shit in his nose. And then I would be like, oh, they're looking up the nose. So I would clean out my nose. And then the cop would come up to me and I would be like, I just met him today. I have no idea what could possibly be in his nose. I'm like rolling balls. I'm like, oh shit. And so I like found my way around any legal issues. The only time I went to rehab is when I sent myself there for attention. And so I never really had any consequences. I never got DUIs. I did have to be hospitalized once for detoxification because I was drugged. And there was like 9 drugs that were in my system that I didn't even take. And so it was like liquid GHB and like powdered ecstasy that was in alcohol. And
what's GHB? Is that what is that?
It's like a psychedelic date rape drug that was in beer that I was drinking in college. So
holy shit.
But yeah, I think like one of the memories that I have though, where I was like, how the hell did I think that this was normal? I was 16 and me and my boyfriend were drinking in his car. And I woke up to the birds chirping at 5 o'clock in the morning, hanging outside of the passenger window. So the lower half of my body was in the car and the upper half of my body was hanging upside down with vomit on the car and on the sidewalk. And my boyfriend was passed out on the sidewalk. I'm like, so I probably would have died if I wasn't hanging upside down. I probably would have choked and asphyxiated on my own vomit. And I still kept drinking like that for 9 years. And
I believe it.
Yeah.
So when
I
was
used to
enough
wake up
enough?
in my puke too.
Like what was it? Was it one thing or was it a lot of things? Like when did you realize that you had a problem?
I realized that alcohol was a problem in my life when I think that there were 2 moments. One, when I generally wanted to start changing my life was when my husband was like, you can't keep staying out till 3 o'clock in the morning and hanging out with people that you're probably hooking up with and not remembering. And I was like, you're right. And he had stuck by my side we've been together for 15 years and I would constantly drown myself and attention seek and engage with other people often. And he would be like, I know who you really are, but like, I'm starting to get too hurt. Like your actions are starting to supersede who I know you are inside of you. And I might not be able to keep holding on for this long. And so I was like, okay, I will start to change my actions. And from there, things started to change. We were drinking more casually and we had been moving on forward until I got pregnant when it just kind of stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah.
Did he have a
That's
problem
so much.
picking up and putting down? Doesn't sound like he had as much of a struggle, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he would black out with me for sure because we were in high school and college together. So our bodies and our minds were really used to drinking like that. And so here's the thing. And I'm sure that the more I put myself out there, this is going to come out eventually at some point. But because of how unfaithful I was whenever I was drinking, when he would be drinking and I would start to get flirtatious, he would start to get controlling. And there were instances where we would get into verbal or physical altercations with each other. And like I had called the cops on him a few times when I shouldn't have, because I was not afraid of my life and he was not harming me in that way. But I would lie to the police. And I've said this in court and I've told all of them that I was over exaggerating. And, a lot of the times people will say that they're over exaggerating when they're not.
Sure.
But I was, and it's really embarrassing to say that, but it's true. And I did it more than a few times. And so he has a long legal case list that he doesn't deserve. If anything, I do, because I literally was just lying. I was intoxicated and I'm like, this is like fucking alluring and I'm mad at him. And like, it was really messed up. And so he would get possessive and controlling for sure, but it made sense to me why, like as a therapist and us knowing each other for so long and me knowing what I've done, I'm like, I was like instigating it. And so, yes, we both blacked out and had difficulties, but he hasn't drank in over 2.5 years now.
Wow. It's amazing.
He may in the future, but there's a reason that he stopped. And I'm sure that we'll get into it.
Sure. Awesome.
That's so impressive that you guys were able to get past all that, because that can be really traumatic for each of you. I don't know. You talking, I'm hearing a lot of my story. So I'm just like very impressed that you guys were able to overcome that. So congratulations.
Thanks.
That's 15 years is a long ass time.
Totally.
Especially when you guys met at like when you were babies.
Yeah.
And how old is you guys have a child together, right?
Yeah, he's 2.
Oh, he's
cute.
a baby.
Okay. So you were pregnant. Now you're getting sober. You quit.
Yeah. Well, so I already had started working on my drinking and then I had to do IVF and then I was pregnant. And so I didn't drink for a year. Then I had my baby and I didn't drink. Neither of us drank for 3 months after that. And then the in-laws came over with champagne and we had champagne. And then we hired a nanny, a full-time nanny. And we were like, okay, let's go out for drinks. Our first night out for drinks. And it was a fucking disaster.
Oh no.
We both blacked out.
Oh no.
And started pushing each other in the streets and somebody called the police. And then I went to a friend's house and like my nanny, it's her first night working for us. Okay. Her fucking first night working for us. And so I go to a friend's house and then my husband's blacked out and he calls me and he's like, you're probably cheating on me again.
Oh, no.
I'm going to call the police on you. And he's just like blacked out. And he's like such a kind human being, but like alcohol will do things to you.
Yeah.
You know? So he's like, I'm going to call 911 on you. Okay. So he pushes the 911 button on his Apple Watch while he's changing my baby's diaper. Then he hangs up the phone.
Oh no.
And 911 operators are like, I just heard a baby crying and a man screaming at this address. Go to this address. And my husband clearly doesn't like the police. So the police started banging on the door and he said, get the fuck out of my face or I'll kill you.
No.
And the cops have no idea what's going on the other side of the door. And it's just my husband drunk and high with this baby. Like, he's not going to harm the baby or I'm not even home. And so they're like, whatever. And so they are freaking out because they hear a baby. And so they bring the SWAT team, crisis investigators, all the police, helicopters flying over my apartment. And I'm down the street at a friend's house and he texts me and he's like, the police are at the house. Like, don't come over here. I'm really scared. And I'm like, yeah, fucking right. And I look out and I'm like, oh my God. And I hear all these like cop cars racing to the apartment. I'm like, oh shit. So I like run over in the street, hop in this bang on this random car. I'm like, you got to let me in the car and drive you to my apartment. The cops are there. Get in some random car. They're like, what the fuck? Okay. And so they drive me to like my apartment and all my neighbors have been evacuated. They barriered off all the streets. And I'm like calling my husband, like, what did you say to them? Why are they so afraid of you right now? And he's like, I don't remember. I'm just trying to go to sleep. I'm tired. The baby's asleep. I don't know what to do. My husband passes out in the house. They're calling and they're like, there were all these news articles, man barricades himself in apartment with 10-week-old baby. But my baby's asleep and my husband's just passed out in bed.
He's in his own house. Yeah.
Yeah, in his own house, and like didn't do anything, but called 911 and hung up after 30 seconds. And so he eventually comes out and is like, I surrender. I didn't do anything. They take him to jail. They charge him only with criminal threats to a police officer that happened after they were banging on the door. And he said, you don't need to come in. I'm not opening the door. So that's all he was charged with. All these like, oh my God, it was crazy. So in order to beat the case, because he had a record involved that I like put in his life.
I love that you're just not there.
I wasn't even
like,
oh my God, it was
friend's
crazy.
House.
And so I'm like, you got to go to treatment. It's the only way you're going to like pull off the court thing. You got to go to treatment. And he was like, but it was that moment where we were like, okay, we might not have cravings for alcohol. We might not be like drinking continuously or binge drinking anymore. But obviously there's a connection between emotions and stress and trauma and what alcohol can do for you. And so if you are stressed out or you are traumatized or you're having emotions, you haven't slept in 3 months, or you had a horrible medical pregnancy, which is what I had. It was terrible. An emergency C-section, couldn't recover for the first like 8 weeks, laying in bed on a bunch of opiates. I can't move, can't take care of my baby. And then we go out and we drink. And it's like the body and our mind is like, yes. This is the release we've been looking for. And so we just fucking blacked out, and we didn't mean to. We're great parents. We did not mean to do that. And so we were like, my husband at least was like, this is it for me. He said, I never want to do anything that will put my son in a situation like that ever again. And so he hasn't drank since that day. And I didn't drink for a while. And then I started having PTSD symptoms of my medical trauma. And it was, the time like, cops are just killing people and like without thinking. And I'm like standing out there in front of, like, I finally make it, back to the apartment, see everything's like barricaded off. And I'm like, my husband's going to try to come out the front door and they're going to shoot my husband and my baby. It like makes me, I was like freaking the fuck out that was going to happen. And so I wasn't drinking for a while. And then I like started drinking and I was like having these flashbacks and I was like, I can't handle this. Like, and I own an addiction treatment center this whole time. Okay. And I'm like, I just like need to like go out and like drink sometimes. Like I'm so stressed out. The baby keeps crying. I can't stop thinking about this. My husband's on probation. Like my husband's in a fucking treatment center in the same city that I own a fucking treatment center. And
that's a lot.
It was so much. I felt
and
like
you have a tiny baby.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so then my drinking started increasing and I was like, okay, I'm running from my trauma. Like I realized I'm running from my trauma. So I stopped on September 5th, which was me and my husband's, I stopped sometime in October or September. It was our like 14-year anniversary or something. And I was like, I'm going to not drink for an entire year. Because I just want to show you that I'm as committed as you are. And it was so easy. Like I didn't have to go to meetings. I didn't have to go to therapy. I didn't have to do anything. I just stopped and it was so easy. I was just dedicated to it. But that goes back to my whole story of like, I don't think I'm physiologically addicted. I think that I can run from my psychological issues at times. So it's easy to stop and it's just as easy to start. And so then just to kind of close out the journey, once I reached a year of sobriety, which was 3 or 4 months ago, I was like, I'm going to try drinking again. So I drank in 3 different instances. First time I drank was at my in-laws' house when family was over. I had 2 beers. I went home. I was fine because it was a non-triggering, non-stressful, barely social environment. Then I went to hang out with my friends and it was horrible. It was horrible. I hated it. It was the people that I hung out with in college. They were the same, throwing drinks on each other. I was like, this is so awkward. This isn't my life anymore. So I ended up blacking out and feeling really sick. And then I didn't drink the whole rest of the weekend. So I was like, okay, this is a clear indicator of if I am going to drink in the future, I have to not be stressed. I have to not be anxious. I have to want to be where I'm at. Like it's just, I need to be me in order for this to work out. And if I'm ever feeling like I'm running from anything in that instance or in my life, I will not pick up a drink. And so then there was another instance where I was hanging out with friends and the same thing happened. And I was like, I'm fucking done. So now I'm giving myself another year to allow my life to change, my body to regulate and my relationship to improve. And then maybe I'll try it again. I don't know if I will. And So that's kind of where I'm at. What I recommend to people, even at my treatment center, is I say, you can't use while you're in treatment. There's completely like getting rid of the point of it. And I'm not going to tell you that you don't have to drink after that, because I could tell you that you don't have to drink or use after treatment, and that's not going to make you not do it. Like, I can teach you the reasons why you shouldn't, but I can't say don't and go and follow you around for the rest of your life. So I say, you can't use or drink or do anything psychoactive while you're in treatment. And I really recommend that you give yourself at least a year of complete abstinence.
Yeah.
Because you need to know what happens over the holidays and your birthday, and when you get that text message and get fired or get hired or feel happy or feel sad, and you need to know what happens. And then after a year, then decide if you want to do another year or decide that you don't. And then, but be ready, because if you aren't ready, or if you use in a situation that you shouldn't, you may end up right back where you started.
Wow, that's powerful. I did that too. When I dabbled into sobriety, I quit for a year on one of my birthdays, and I was like, I'm done for a year. Like, woke up hungover from doing coke all night, and then like literally on my birthday, like had a Bellini, and then drank for about another almost year, and it was like that shit escalated pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I was like, okay, we have to do this. So at what point in your story are you Dr. Courtney?
Good question. So,
because I imagine that there's like an internal struggle of sorts.
Yeah, well, I was opening my treatment center, doing my doctorate, and IVF all at the same time. So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Let's just have a moment of silence for all of that.
I don't know I don't know. Like, if someone said, do you want to do all of this at once? Again, I would be like, it's not going to be possible, but I did. And so I got my doctorate about a year and 3 months ago. And so it was like, I finished it within like the first 6 months of my baby's life. And that was within the second year of both of the treatment centers that I opened.
Damn.
Crazy.
Damn.
So it kind of makes sense that I was like drinking sometimes. So it was a lot of shit, but I think it might be hard for people to hear that. Oh, she was getting her doctorate in clinical psychology. She had a treatment center, and she was drinking heavily on the weekends. Some people may just be like, oh, then she's not credible, or she's unsafe, or she would make wrong clinical decisions. And, they ask you when you apply for your license, and they ask you when you apply to doctorate programs, do you use any drugs or alcohol that would impair your ability to do your job? And yes, I was using drugs and alcohol. And no, I had never used and will never use in a way where I will not be able to make the correct clinical decision.
Sure.
And that might not be the case for some people, but it is the case for me.
I feel like it's also just being realistic. I think for however many years before, people were just lying about it. Like, it was just like,
yeah, exactly.
You can't like throw a rock and not hit someone that has a drinking problem. Like, sorry, everyone, whether or not they know it, or they like, you can't really like go into a room without somebody that has issues consuming alcohol. And so I think it's really important to note that like you can still, like, I had the same problem. Like, can I become a therapist because I'm sober? And I talked to another sober therapist who's like, that will help you because you did go through all of this stuff. And I think that's why I was really drawn to your TikToks, because not only like do you have great bangs and seem cool and young and you know what I mean, normal, and with it, like you also have this interesting perspective on things, and you make it more approachable, which is a whole entire other podcast about how mental health needs to be more accessible and like relatable to people. But I was just like, I think you did the doctor in the bikini hashtag, and I thought that was really powerful also just as a female.
Yeah. I mean, then thank you for saying all of that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the Truth Doctor is like, I know a lot of therapists, and like, they're all fucked up. Like, we are all fucked up. And it's okay that you have issues and have had traumatic experiences, and maybe you drink a little too heavily sometimes. It's like, there's a relationship between your past, your present, and your future, and the behaviors that you engage in and your degrees. But it's like, yeah, I think it's unrealistic to expect people in these generations to wear blazers and button down collared shirts with like fitted pants and like just sit there and ask you how it feels. It's like, we're done with that shit, and we're done with the facades and the schemas of what professionals are supposed to look like. And so I feel And I think for me, why it's working is because it's my saving grace. I worked my whole life before I started being myself to try to be whatever somebody else wanted me to be and to live up to other people's expectations. And I was a compulsive liar about where I lived and how much money my family had and what I did that weekend and all my friends. And finally, I'm healing myself by being real. And I feel like it's healing so many other people. And so that's the point.
I feel like being relatable is really important in therapy. At least, I don't know, maybe it's just like being a woman or being of this age. But I know when I was looking for my therapist, my criteria was like, I know I want a female and I know I want her to be like not young, but I don't want someone that's like 70. You know, I wanted someone that just can relate a little bit to me. Even
someone born
obviously
after 1975.
Right. Like everyone's story is going to be different, but like just some sense of like understanding where I'm coming from. And so I think that's really important because I've tried other therapists and like you said, they're just like, and how does that make you feel? Like that doesn't work for me. I don't know. It doesn't work for everybody. So I think it's great what you're doing.
Okay. Walk us through TikTok. Walk us through your meteoric rise to fame on TikTok.
So crazy. So, I started the Truth Doctor Instagram on my son's first birthday. I seem to do that. I choose birthdays. It's like they can't just leave them alone to be birthdays or anniversaries. I have to either take a year off of drinking or start a brand new fucking business. So I started Instagram and my cousin is a social media manager. And she was like, listen, you are not like really an Instagram therapist right now. If you look at like the type of therapists that are on Instagram, you're more so like you could be like a breakthrough TikTok therapist. So just download the app and just see what it is. And I was like, I'm not fucking downloading this teenage lip syncing app, Sammy.
Yes.
I'm so busy in my life. I'm not doing this.
TikToks take a lot of work. That's why I'm like, now that I know all the other shit that you do, I like respect you that much more.
Yeah. I mean, and I had no idea that it was going to be so much time and so much exposure. So I downloaded the app. The first thing that I saw was literally a bunch of human beings from all over the world being authentic and vulnerable and talking about their shit.
Telling the truth.
Yeah. And being funny, like funny as fuck, like just random ass people, so funny. And I felt like, wow, this is like where the realness is for social media. Like this is where it is. And I was like, all right, I'm in. And so I made my first video on January 31st of this year. And now it's December 7th. And I'm about to be at 1.3 million people.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Like it happens quick on TikTok.
So fast. And yeah. And so at first I was trying to make videos and I was like, this is fucking difficult. I'm like, I don't know how to edit
You're
videos.
really good at
I don't know how to shoot videos or write scripts for myself. And now I'm like, I figured it out. And now in like 30 minutes, I can be like 3 different people. I can be Dr. Courtney Tracy and I can be drunk Courtney and I can have Dr. Courtney Tracy talk to drunk Courtney and like interact like this like therapy session or whatever. And then it gets shown to like 1 million people in like one day. And I'm like, whoa. So it's super impactful. And the messages that I mainly get are like, thank you for being real. Thank you for showing us that people can have issues and still make their dreams come true. And like, that's the point. Like, that's really the message I'm trying to get across. Like, yeah, I'll teach you about depression and addiction, but it's the underlying message of you can just be you and you're going to be okay. And you can do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, that's major.
I'm going to have to go on your TikTok.
You have to. Jess isn't on TikTok.
I have a TikTok.
Oh,
but
do you have a fake TikTok?
I also have an addictive personality. So the few times that I've gone on there, like, okay, legit one time I looked and it was 7:30 in the morning. I was on it all night. And I was just like looking at like prank videos or whatever the fuck. Cause it has like the algorithm is like you start here and then and I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. So I still have the app, but I've not gone on it, but I will make an exception because I want to watch it. But that's the problem is like, I will be on there for like 8 hours. Do I not have to pee during this time? Like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I mean, I guess I just take it with me, but it's true. Cause the thing that I like about it is that you can tell such a story in such a short period of time, which is really nice. So I am excited to go check out your TikToks. I've just being trying to ration myself as far as TikTok goes.
When did it
That's a good
take off?
idea.
Like, I feel like there's a point where everybody finds their niche on like a video that like sort of takes off for them. And then they get that feedback from the audience of like, okay, I need to be doing more of this. This is what they want.
Yes.
What was that video for you? Because I don't know. I haven't been following you since January, definitely. I think I came to TikTok in like March, the beginning of quarantine.
Yeah. So the first viral video that I remember, well, there was 2 of them and they were both me talking shit on parents. And
Nice.
the first one was me in leather pants, black leather pants and a black shirt, dancing around and saying, maybe if you stopped invalidating your children's emotions, then they wouldn't need so much fucking therapy as an adult. And it was like 10 seconds long. And it was like, I don't know, millions of people. And it's
Oh my God.
like, I think 250,000 people followed me just from that one video.
Yeah,
That's
I found you in your, I was
crazy.
like, this lady swears. She wears a doctor coat. I was like, I'm in. I want to be like that when I eventually graduate from school.
Yeah.
If only you and I were like better at doing things, Kate, we could have a TikTok and maybe we'd
We
have
can
more.
barely manage like the
I can
social
barely manage
media that
what
we
we're
have.
doing right now. So do you want to do the
I'm
questions,
pulling
Kate, or
them
no?
up. Yeah. So,
Yeah, okay. So basically every episode when we have a guest on, we ask the same kind of like 3 or 4 questions and I will let Kate
okay.
take over if she finds them.
What is your favorite seltzer or non-alcoholic beverage?
Yeah. So I drink LaCroix.
Love it. What flavor?
Well, I mean, I used to drink LaCroix and now, so when I had my C-section, I swear to fucking God, they put me together wrong. And so now if I drink anything carbonated, it just like, it's not.
Oh,
They broke
just
you? That's fucked up.
I don't know. And so I was drinking it like when I needed it because, you know, you have something in your hand. It helps your nerves. It gives you something to do and you don't want to talk. And now I just, I don't even go out. Like most people just don't leave the house because of everything that's going on this year. So now it's just water. And I was really averted to water. I think water's fucking weird. It all tastes different. It looks different. I don't understand how it's the same H2O and it all fucking tastes different. It freaks me out, but I'm forcing myself to drink it now because I can't drink carbonation. And so that's really what I'm stuck
Do you get
to.
like special water? I feel like you're in California. You get like those cool fresh glass things delivered. What's that company called? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talking about Voss?
No, there's like there's like a special goop water. I swear to God, it comes in like a glass carafe thing.
That's a cult, Kate. Isn't that a cult?
She knows what I'm talking
I heard
about,
the
though.
goop is-
The water. She knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, and sometimes, you know, before the whole quarantine thing happened and I would still go out with friends and family, I would drink some non-alcoholic beer. I thought it was really funny to drink non-alcoholic beer when I was pregnant and hide the label. So people would just like stare at me and be like, is she drinking beer while she's pregnant? I just like messing with people because they're so easily messed with. But I realized after that, you know, I still had an effect of non-alcoholic beer. Like it still kind of made me feel fucked up. And so I don't drink that anymore either because I like to be in control. And if I can't drive, like basically if it's an emergency in my life, like now that I have a child, now that I'm not running from my trauma, it's like, I don't want to ever be in a situation where if something happens to them, even if it's non-alcoholic beer and I feel out of it, that like, I can't go and like do whatever needs to be done.
Sure.
And so, you know, my life changed.
I love that.
A lot of our listeners are brand new into being sober curious. Do you have any advice for people that are freshly sober and trying to navigate that?
Any tools?
Yeah. Well, you know, right when you said that, a lot, what came up for me was like, here's like all the questions I would ask them to figure out how to actually give them the best support. But in general, I think that it's important to know that extreme emotions that you can feel physically or that feel like they're taking you over, they typically only last 90 seconds.
Whoa.
The body and the mind, they only last 90 seconds. It's our thoughts and our emotions that we attach to that feeling. Like when we get really mad or we're like immediately shocked in grief, it's when we say, I'm so mad because, and we ruminate on what we're mad about, that it keeps that emotion longer than 90 seconds. And so be mindful of when you're pissed or when you're sad or when you're mad or when you're jealous. Give yourself some time before you say, the only thing that I can do is drink or use. It's like your body will calm itself down.
Don't send a text for 90 fucking seconds.
Yeah, wait it out.
That's good advice. That's great advice. Okay.
How do you suggest people see, Kate, I'm starting to memorize them now,
good.
the questions. Yeah.
I'm reading them.
People are always like, how do I make friends in early sobriety? Do you have any suggestions for that? Because that is a question that comes up a lot.
The connection thing, like you said, people are searching for connection.
Yeah. I think when people are first starting to get sober, they initially want to connect with people that are also sober. And that can work and that also doesn't work sometimes. I think because then if you relapse, then you have this strange relationship with those people now. And it's like, are they going to accept you? Or are they going to say like, talk to us when you have 90 days or 90 meetings in 90 days, whatever it is. I think, but obviously you want to have a sober community. And at the same time, you want to get to know yourself. You really want to get to know what it is that you actually like doing. What hobbies do you like to read books? Do you like to fucking do ceramics? Like, what do you like to do? And then develop that within yourself and then find other people that enjoy doing that, because then you're going to have that sustainability that's detached from your sobriety. And hopefully those people accept you in your sobriety. But the thing I've realized is the people that are the most successful, unless their recovery becomes their whole life and they open up a treatment center or become a sober therapist or, become the secretary of the young people's AA in their community, whatever it is. If you don't absorb that as your full identity, then you need to find a new identity. You need to find your new joy and your new creativity and not necessarily attach your whole life to the fact that you're sober. Mm-hmm. Because that I don't feel like that's the most fulfilling way to live. If you are constantly reminding yourself that your life needs to be restricted and that you've really fucked up, is also important to realize that you've also grown and you can just have fun and not acknowledge that you've overcome this thing.
Definitely. I think too in early sobriety, like that has to be in the front seat with you because it has to be top of mind. And then like I'll have 5 years in February and it's like it's definitely moved to like the back seat, but it is still the groundwork for all the good that's happened in my life, but it's just like moved to the back of the bus a little bit. Like it's still here, but she's not front and center anymore, which is a relief actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The last thing is what we call our hot mess highlights, hoedowns or lowlights, and it's a story that you can or you don't have to share, but it's essentially like Jess and I trade stories where we did shit fucked up and we share them with the squad so that they don't feel so alone, because I think that they listen to our podcast and they're like, oh, these two never did anything wrong. And we're like, we almost called this podcast like the yellow mattress because we both peed our beds and you know what I mean? So I think it helps to see people share those stories. So if you have a hot mess highlight that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, I probably half the time that I blacked out, I woke up having peed on my husband. So he's probably changed our sheets since high school about 500 times just because I peed in the bed. And he still loves me more than I've ever seen someone love another person. So no shame. I think, what would be something? Oh my God, you guys.
The SWAT team story is pretty good, but
so is the waking up like half out of the car puking.
And that. Okay, so I was on like 6 pills of ecstasy and I was 17 years old. And there was like this train of like kids, like 6 or 7 years old in line at this ice cream shop for ice cream. And I was super drunk and on all this ecstasy. And I walked in, lit cigarette in hand, walked past them, cut the line and was like, can I have a sample of chocolate, bitches? And then got dragged out by security. My cigarette smoke and like it go in all these kids' faces inside an ice cream store. I didn't even remember.
My God.
That, but, yeah.
I would 100% be friends with drunk Dr. Courtney.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Can you tell everyone where we can find you on all the socials?
Yeah, sure. So my website is thetruthDoctor.com. My Instagram and TikTok is _truth_doctor. For anyone that has childhood trauma or anxiety or is having a hard time forgiving themselves or someone else, I have free courses on thetruthDoctor.com that are month-long, that are going to teach you about your anxiety, about childhood trauma and how it may be still showing up for you, how it may trigger you in your use or a relapse or anything like that. So that can be really helpful. And then I have a podcast that is called Your Unconscious is Showing. And I bring people on that have overcome shit in their lives. And I dive into a bunch of topics from my perspective and talk a lot about my own life, just like I did on here. So if you guys are interested, if you're listening.
Love that. We'll link all of this stuff in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
And
the
to follow
TikTok.
her on TikTok, obviously.
Wait, yeah. What's the TikTok name?
Yeah. So it's the #truth.doctor.
Okay, gotcha. I'm obviously going to check that out later on tonight and be on there for 6 hours. Thank you so much for coming on.
I thoroughly
This has
enjoyed
been really
this.
fun.
The 90
I laughed
seconds
a
thing
lot.
really blew my mind. I got to let that sink in after we are done.
Yeah.
Well, until we meet again, Jess.
Be nice to yourself.
And don't forget, hangovers suck.
suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.